Turn it on. For those of you viewing at home, we're going to get started in about 3 minutes. Test. Can you hear me, John? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 8th grade curriculum night. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anthony Chiffo. I'm the proud principal here at Untitled Middle School. We have a very exciting 8th grade program that I'd like to share with everybody, and that's what we're going to do here tonight. And this is a strange format. I'm talking to about 20 or so people in front of me, and last I checked, there was over 50 or 60 online. So thank you, whichever way you decided to join us. Thank you for joining. And if anybody misses the presentation, you can just let them know that there's going to be a link on our website tomorrow morning, which will be the recorded presentation. It's going to be through YouTube. So, okay. So it feels like just yesterday, I think I could take this down while I'm talking, right? It feels like just yesterday, I was sitting outside in the 100-degree burning hot sun on the lawn in front of the building, and I was giving you your 6th grade parent orientation. And I remember it vividly because it was the first time really of us getting together, post-COVID, and it just flew like that. And here we are now, and I'm talking to you all about your last year in middle school for your children. I hope they've had a nice middle school experience. And our 8th grade experience, I hope, is even better for them because we have a lot of nice options for them. And that's really what we're going to be talking about tonight is all the options that we have. So when we put together our 8th grade program, we had to first think about what are our values and what do we want our children to be able to experience. And the key thing was that we really wanted to help develop the whole child. And we wanted to give students an opportunity to explore their interests. When they get to high school, they have an opportunity to start to not necessarily choose a career path, but at least choose, a direction that they think they'd like to go. And middle school is the perfect time to start exploring that. So we really want to give students, build some choice and autonomy, and give up academic opportunities that meet all of our children's needs, but at the same time, have our core classes offer, academic rigor and then combine that with exciting interest-based opportunities, which I'm going to go over through our elective program. Okay, so I'm going to start off by introducing our Director of Humanities, Ms. Julie Rossley, who's going to talk about a little bit quickly about our English program as well as our Social Studies program. So I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Rossley.
Good evening. So English is one of the 4 core classes that students would take in 8th grade, as they've taken in 6th grade and 7th grade. We offer a reading and writing workshop, which should be familiar to you because it's something your children have been working through in 6th grade and 7th grade. English in 8th grade for next year will be offered 60 minutes daily. And we also offer push-in support, meaning that you have a certified ELA teacher in the room, and you'll also have a reading teacher in the room to support your students, no matter their reading levels, to help them with reading comprehension. If there are any fluency issues, the teacher's there also to aid in the students' learning. When it comes to social studies, it's the second half of the 2-year American history sequence. The students began it in 7th grade, they'll continue it in 8th grade, and it follows along with the inquiry-based framework for the New York State Social Studies curriculum. It integrates reading, writing, research, and presentation skills, and quite often our English and Social Studies teachers will collaborate to create group projects and interdisciplinary projects that your students would work on. Social Studies meets daily for 40 minutes. Right now, I'm going to call up Ms. Carol Ann Winans, who's our Director of STEM.
Okay, hello everybody, and hello everyone at home. So we're going to talk about math first, then we'll go into science, and then we'll talk about the honors and how to get into the honors program. So Pathway 1 for next year, your students can take Math 8, which is our regular Math 8 course, or they could take Pathway 2, which is the Algebra 1 honors course. The Math 8 course is going to be open to your Math 7 regular students. It meets 40 minutes, and it provides the push-in support. Whereas our high school course, which is our Algebra 1, is going to meet daily for 40 minutes, and it's going to prepare the students for the New York State Regents. So they will be taking a Regents at the end of the year in 8th grade in math. Okay, for our science program, I do want to emphasize that all 8th grade students will be taking a New York State Regents at the end of their course. This is now going to be the 3rd cohort of students in which every 8th grader is going to be taking a Regents. The choices of the Regents course would be Pathway 1, which is the Living Environment course, which you guys would be more familiar with biology. And then you have Pathway 2, which is the Earth Science Regents course. This is going to allow every single student to be 1 year ahead in terms of their science courses in their high school schedule. When deciding, should my child take Living Environment, should my child take Earth Science, the one thing I want to emphasize is that all students will have the same opportunity to get back into our honors chemistry course, take our AP biology course, our Regents chemistry course, and then we also have our electives in 10th grade. So just because your child doesn't take the Earth Science honors course now, that doesn't mean it's going to hinder their future of their opportunities of taking APs at the high school, any electives in the high school. With this pathway, all students will have the same exact opportunities. The only difference is if you decide to take Earth Science in 8th grade, it is put together with a very rigorous course named LEAPS. This course will allow the children to take the AP Environmental Science course and Living Environment at the same time. This means in 9th grade, your child will be taking both an AP in May and a Regents in Living Environment. Why I'm emphasizing this? You don't want your child taking an AP in 9th grade. Your child should really be taking the Living Environment course. And it's not going to hinder any of their interests or their aspirations once they get into high school, because everyone is going to go back into the same pool in 10th grade. The only option that your child would not get if they take the earth science course, if they take living environment, is they would not get the opportunity to take leaps. They still will get the opportunity to take living environment because they'd be taking it in 8th grade, and they have the opportunity of taking AP Environmental Science alone in 11th and 12th grade. So I really just want to emphasize that if you're going to think about, that's very stressful, my child may not be able to have time to study after school, they are involved in so many extracurriculars, this sounds like a very demanding course. Well, it is, because some students really want this challenge in 9th grade and they want to be pushed academically. But it's not a reality for all students. So I just really wanted to emphasize the opportunity that is available, but also the idea that back in 10th grade, everybody goes back into the same pool and has the same opportunities. I think we're taking questions at the end. Okay.
Yeah, we'll take questions at the end.
Okay, so what is the honors criteria? To get into the Algebra H, successful completion of Math 7H, and a teacher recommendation. We really do want to emphasize that truly the students who have a 90 or better average in 7H are the students who are successful in our algebra program. And it is really difficult once the children are in the course to really make scheduling changes once the child realizes that they're struggling. We want to give you the opportunity to enroll your child in what you think is best. So we're not going to set a criteria for that, but we do want to kind of say that the kids who score 90% or better are the ones that are truly successful, but we don't want to take away that opportunity. So just keep that in mind. Earth Science, again, this LEAPS course is very, very rigorous. So the cutoff to get into that class is high. It's 95%. We will be sending out emails probably after the second quarter that's going to say your child has a 95 better. They can be considered to take the LEAPS program. If you're not recommended through that, there is an appeals process, and following that email of getting into the course, you will have the ability to have the information to go through the appeals process. Please know that part of the appeals process is a friendly phone call from me explaining the rigor and the dedication that the children have to spend for that LEAPS course. Okay, and I will reintroduce Mr. Chifo.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Winans and Ms. Rossley. All right, so now that's the 4 core classes. And just want to reiterate, the one major change in terms of timing in the English class is now going to 60-60 that Ms. Rossley had mentioned. Previously, your children have taken English as we call this 40-60. So they have it for 40 minutes one day, 60 minutes for the other. In order to accommodate the needs of the writing and reading workshop, we've moved to the 60-60 model. This is the first year we're doing that model for 8th grade. So that's the only real change to the program, as well as the addition of a couple of new electives. And this is really the meat and potatoes of our 8th grade program, and something that we're all very proud of, the amount of electives that we offer our 8th graders. And in previous years, going back 5 or 6 years, students were only able to take one of these electives. And one of the things that we decided a couple of years back was that we really wanted to give students the opportunity to explore more of their interests. So we were able to create the schedule in a way that they have the opportunity to take 1, 2, and in some cases, not all, but in some cases they can take even more than that if they decide to take some early bird classes. I'm just going to I have them all listed here, but we have animations and art class. Automation and robotics is a science-based class, and that's a Project Lead the Way class. If you have questions about that, Ms. Winans can answer at the end of the presentation. Business management, ceramics is another art option. Dance is another option. It's offered through the English department. Ms. Davis, who's our director of our shows, our school play, she does the intro to dance class. Digital art, digital news and film production, digital photography, e-business, garage band, which is like an audio engineering class. Get Up, Stand Up is a new social studies elective. Intro to drama, intro to piano, modern food production. I know it sounds like a cooking class, but it's not. It's a science class, aquaponics and hydroponic class in our state-of-the-art science, modern food, aquaponics lab, which Mr. Muley basically hand-built himself over the last few years. Printmaking, and then Ultimate Chef, which is a cooking class. Sounds like a cooking class and is a cooking class. There's also a sewing component to the Ultimate Chef class as well. So on our website, I'm just going to click the link, and I'm going to hope that I don't mess up my Zoom here. So on our main page on our website, this is the middle school page, you'll see a number of links. So you'll see the link for tonight, and then just under that is the 8th grade elective course descriptions. So if you click on that, you'll get a written description of each of the electives. Now, all of these electives are alternate days, so they meet every other day for a full year. There are some in this list, our elements of art, engineering classes, those are every other day for a half a year, so they're considered a quarter-year class. Most of these, however, are considered half-year classes, but they meet for the entire year every other day. And that's another change we made to the program to give the students a chance to have more options, and they can take classes opposite their other full-year alternate day classes, such as PE and music. Now, when you click on this, I'm not going to click on these now, because if I do, I think the audio might get messed up between the Zoom. So all of these links are clickable here. So where it says animation, ceramics, digital arts, all the way down, they're all here. Everything that's blue is clickable, and when you click it, it'll give you a little commercial for that class. Each of our teachers put together between 30 seconds and 2-minute videos basically explaining what that class is. So our suggestion is go home, review all of these with your children, click all the links, watch all the videos, so they can decide, and you can decide along with them, which classes you think they'd be interested in. Now, all these classes don't always run, and it all depends on enrollment. If we get 4 kids who are interested in one of our classes, let's say garage band, for example, we won't run that class. We have to get at least 15 students or so before we run one of our electives. So our counselors right now are in classrooms going over these electives with your children as well. They were today, they'll be again tomorrow. But this is basically that. So I'm going to try now. Click back out. Dr. Scolari will talk a little bit about the Google form, so we'll get into that a little bit later. All right. Okay, so on top of the ones that were listed on the previous page, these are some additional options that you could take in the morning, and we call it an early bird class. That class starts at 7:37, and it runs until 8:15, and then our advisory, a little before 8:15, then our advisory starts at 8:16, and then first real period, which we call period 2, starts at 8:30. So if a child wants to make room for more of those electives on the previous page, they can push some classes to the morning. Fitness for Life is included in the elective page on the previous page as well. Physical education could be taken in the morning if we have enough students interested this year. Yoga and mindfulness is another one that's running currently, along with the Fitness for Life, both very successful classes. Health 8's a requirement, and that's a quarter-year course. They're taking Health 7 now, every other day for a half year, which equals a quarter-year course. Health 8 is also required, but again, they could push it into the morning so that they have room to take more electives during the day. And then if your child is in need of AIS support, that could also be pushed into the morning as a period 1 class if needed. Okay, so I just want to give you a couple of sample schedules because I don't expect you to memorize this, but I just want to give you an idea of what a typical child's schedule could look like. And there are so many options, and that's the beauty of the program, and that's really what we're so proud of, is that we've created it in a way that you can choose so many different pathways. This particular pathway, this student happens to be a science-minded student, loves science, wants to take as many science electives as possible. This student doesn't take an early bird class. They have their advisory period 1. Period 2, they're going to take robotics, and that's Mr. Sposito's Project Lead the Way class. And then opposite that, they'll take PE. So on odd days, it's robotics. On even days, it's PE. Period 3, they want to take another science class. So this child took modern food and also took engineering and design. Engineering and design is the old Tech 8. That class is a quarter-year class that runs for a half a year every other day. So opposite the engineering and design would be health, and then every other day would be modern food for the full year. So now the student, before they've even hit their core classes, has 3 science-based classes, electives, that the student's able to take. Then you got your earth science and your English, which are going to always be back-to-back, and that's where the 60-60 comes in. Those 2 classes run for 60 minutes every single day. So the 2 classes take up 3 periods in every student's day. Period 4, 5, and 6, it'll be earth science for the period 4, earth science lab for half of period 5, and then halfway through period 5, they'll switch to their English class. And that's the same thing each day. Then you got lunch. Algebra is just 40 minutes every day, and same thing with whether you're in algebra or math 8, it's 40 minutes every day. Same thing with world language, and same thing with social studies. Okay, so this is what a typical schedule could look like if your child is all about science. Okay, this is a sample pathway for an art or music-minded student. And again, these are just samples, and there are so many other options that we can work with. The counselors will work with your child to find the path that works right for them. In this particular case, this child chose to take Health 8 in the morning, as well as PE. Now that really opens up, taking PE in the morning really opens up some opportunities for them. So now in period 2, they're taking band, regular band 8, and opposite that, they're taking garage band, which, like I said, is an audio engineering class, which is a really neat class. I really hope it runs next year. And then also they're into art, so they're going to take digital arts and animation, period 3. So again, they're taking garage band, digital arts, animation, band, all because they moved PE into the morning, gave them that extra opportunity. Now, not every kid's going to want to get up earlier in the morning, but if they want to, that option is there for them. Okay, and then you got your same thing, your science and your ELA butted up back to back. In this particular case, it's living environment lab, followed by ELA. And then same thing, math, 40 minutes. This is math 8, lunch, world language, social studies. Okay, so that's what a sample schedule could look like for an art music-minded student. Okay, and then this was a dilemma that we had in previous years. A student who was in need of support services often would not be able to take any of the electives. And that was something that we felt very strongly about, that we really needed to make sure we figured out a way to open up as many opportunities as possible for a student who's also in need of support services. So this particular student could either be resource room or an ICT student who takes skills. This student chose to take, again, PE in the morning, health in the morning. That helps open up some opportunities for them. Now the student's taking Ultimate Chef on odd days, animation on even days, period 2. Then so they're still getting 2 full year, every other day electives, which in previous years, the most you can take any student, no matter who you were, was 1. So we really opened up the door to give students the opportunity to explore some of the things that they might love. And now the student is living environment English, same thing, lunch, math, world language, social studies. Same. Now they don't necessarily be in this order, but that's generally what a sample schedule would look like. Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Scolari. She's going to kind of go through the course selection process, what our counselor's role is, what your child's role is going to be, and what your role is going to be to help guide your child in the right direction.
Welcome, everyone, at home and in person. So I don't know if your children have spoken to you today, but today the counselors went into their social studies classes. And they went through all the course descriptions of all the courses and their options, and they went over sample schedules with your children. Tonight is the meeting. And then tomorrow morning on the website, there's the link there that says Google Form selection form. It's not live yet. I will add the live link tomorrow morning, and you and your child have until Friday to fill out the form. And I will go through what the form looks like in a few minutes. So you're going to go through the form, look it over, and then they're due on Friday. And then counselors will meet with your children the week of February 7th, one-to-one, right? So your child will go into the office, they'll look at all the selections that they chose in the Google form, and they'll go through to make sure that they didn't register for too many courses and that they have everything they need for graduation. So what should you do after tonight's meeting? There's a lot of information with a lot of choices for you between the science, the math, and the electives. You will speak to your child about the course offerings. You don't have to do it tonight. You have all week to do it. You can go through that sheet that Mr. Chiffo had mentioned, click on the links, watch the videos. They're really interesting. The other thing you're going to do is really talk to your child about the honors courses, if that's something that you're thinking about. It's really prestigious that all students will graduate 8th grade taking a Regents class for science. So being in living environment is a really big accomplishment. Everyone's taking that class and they will get Regents credit for it. So really talk to them about, what is your goal for 8th grade? Are you going to be involved in all different sports and travel sports and clubs? And do you have the time to put into study for the honors class? And there are summer assignments and there are different things that go on with the course with the honors. So really speak to your child, because they're both rigorous courses and you just want to make sure that you're making the right choice for them without stressing them out too much. There's some kids who love that kind of challenge, and there's others that life is stressful enough and you don't need to add that extra challenge at 13 years old. So really have those conversations. And like Ms. Wynan said, they will have an opportunity in 9th grade to still be in honors like English and social studies, and they could still in 10th grade join that science honors track again with chemistry. So it's not like, oh, they're not in that honors 7, what's going to happen to them? Nothing. They're just, it's 8th grade, they're 13 years old. They do have those opportunities for honors again in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and so on. Okay, so on the Google form, it looks a little different, but I just wanted to kind of go through the form of what they have to answer. So their name, first and last, right? And they are going to have to use their Wantall Google account to get onto the form. So it's if you try with your computer and it's logged in as you're not going to be able to access the form. So make sure they're using their Google account when they're going into it. I also set it up where they can only do it one time. But if you mess up, it's not a big deal. Just email me and I'll make the corrections, because what happens is sometimes both parents will fill out the form, the kid fills out the form, and now we're going crazy, which elective do they want? There's 4 different electives here and 2 here. So make sure that you did it one time, and if it's a mistake, let me know and I will correct the form for your child. So what it's going to ask is, there's all these electives. We have 16 electives for them to choose from, and I'm going to have them rank their top 4. Because some of them can actually take 4 electives if they take the early bird courses. And some other students might take a class that only 4 students signed up for it, so they'll have to go to their second choice, third choice, or fourth choice. So this is just a little bit easier so we know what they're interested in. And so they'll rank, my first choice is, it'll list all these classes and they'll pick the one that's their first choice. Then it'll say my second choice is, it'll list all the classes and they pick their second choice. So it's pretty simple for the first 4. Okay, come on. Then they have a couple of other options. This might look like a little confusing, but the other options are, those were all the top 4 choices for the full year, every other day elective courses. Now they get to choose their quarter years, like Mr. Chiffo had mentioned. So health is required. Health is half a year, every other day. So if you don't take health in the morning and you take it during your regular school day, you have to take one of these other classes that are in Roman numeral 2, which is either elements of art, which is basically art 8, So Delicious, which is a family and consumer science class where they do a little cooking, a little sewing, and the other choice is engineering and design, which is a Tech 8 class, okay? So again, if they take health in the morning, they don't have to take any of these classes. They could take an extra full year alternate day elective. But if they're going to take health during the school day, they have to take one of those other classes. And that's why you go, health is mandated for all. And then you'll rank, do they want elements of art, So Delicious, or the engineering and design? Then in 6th and 7th grade, music was required for all students. So now they have the choice in 8th grade after all those years of doing music. We really encourage that if they are an orchestra player, chorus, or band member, and they really enjoy it, to stick with it. Because once you get out of it, it's very hard to get back into it in high school. And it's a great thing to be part of. But if you're one of those students that are sitting in that room miserable because you're just not into music, and that's okay, now we're going to give you the opportunity to say, I prefer not to be in a performing group, and you can take a different elective. To me, I consider music, band, chorus, and orchestra an elective as well, but they could take one of the every other day electives. And that's why we switched the program this year. So for students who do take band, chorus, or orchestra, there's other things to go against it, like an art class or a tech class or a business class. So again, music for 8th grade is not mandatory, but we highly encourage, if your child is in that program, to continue with that program. And then we have a few early bird options. The Health 8, like I mentioned, Fitness for Life and yoga is just like an elective class, which is really nice. I mean, the yoga class girls, it's mostly girls, could be a couple of boys in there too, but not this semester. And they just sit there before the start of the day and they just meditate and get through some really good stuff to have a really successful day if they're anxious or whatnot. So it's a really good class. The one new thing we added this year is PE 8 early bird. We've never had it before, so we're hoping to get enough enrollment for that class to run, and then they're able to take additional classes in during the day.
So could you just go back one and then forward one?
Sorry, we're saying we're having technical issues on the
Go
Zoom.
back to it. I think that should be good now.
Okay. One thing I just want to make note, if your child takes PE 8 in the morning or Health 8 in the morning, and they realize, I just can't get up, it's really early, it's at 7:37 in the morning, those are mandated classes, so they're going to have to then eventually be put during the day, and then they will lose their electives. So just wanted to let you know that, Fitness for Life and yoga, those are electives. So if they, for some reason, decided I don't want to take it anymore, which I hope they don't, that's okay. But PE 8 and health, they're mandated. So if it's in the morning and it's not working out, we're going to have to cancel out an elective during the day to make sure that we fit those into the schedule. So if your child is hard to get here for 8:13, I would not recommend an early bird class. But I just wanted to give you that option. So that is it for right now. One thing I just want to mention, when the counselors went into the classes today, they were under the impression that they were only allowed to choose 2 electives, and that's how it's always been. But now that we put PE in the morning, they're able to take a 3rd elective during the day as well. So I think your children were only told 2 today, and I'm going to go into the cafeterias tomorrow just to clear that up with them. So just so if you speak to them, let them know they can take 3. Okay. Sure.
Okay, thanks. So we're going to take questions in a second. 2 things I just wanted to point out. Like what Dr. Scalari said, that there's the option to push something into the morning to take 3. If your child has all different supportive services, let's say they're in Wilson or skills, resource room, whatever it is, and you're concerned that they want to take music, but then they're going to lose out on taking an elective, just talk it through. Call your counselor and talk it through. We have ways to be creative to get you what you need. So don't stress about that. Just give us a call and we'll do our best to work it through. Secondly, for those at home, I think the slides might have been getting frozen, so I'm not sure if you were able to view all the slides. So when we post a recording, and this is for your benefit as well, we'll post a PDF of these slides so you can look at them at home. I saw some of you taking pictures of the slides. I do that all the time in presentations. But we'll post a PDF on the website so that you could really look at it a little bit more closely. And as always, if you have any questions, I'm going to take questions from the live audience. I don't have the ability right now to take questions from the at-home audience. So at-home audience, if you have a burning question, just shoot me an email or Dr. Scalari an email, and obviously we'll be happy to get back to you. So with that said, I'm going to open it up to any questions. Yes? All right, we got 3 questions. I'm going to turn that one over to Ms. Winans, but you have to come up to the mic, unfortunately. So his question, just is for the benefit of the at-home. I'm not sure if the at-home people were able to hear the question. So his question had to do with earth science, and it's a 2-year commitment. And the question was, if after the first year, the child does not want to continue in the LEAPS program, what happens? So I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Winans.
So we're always going to have to offer living environment regents at the high school, simply because new people coming into the district, people transferring out of Catholic school, living environment has to be offered at the high school level. So we will always have a living environment regents level course at the high school. So if the students go into the earth science course, which is challenging in itself, and then they realize, hey, I don't want to be in the AP course, they can transfer into, well, not really transfer, but just choose to take living environment in the high school. However, we really do encourage a strong conversation now of, do I want my child to take an AP? And with your child, do you want to take an AP in 9th grade? And are you willing to put that time in? Because as much as we're always going to have that course there, it's much easier to fulfill the schedules and the needs of the child with the decision being made in 8th grade that if I'm taking the earth science, I'm prepared to take the AP. One of the reasons is because some of the information that we teach in the earth science is going to be brought into the LEAPS course. So there is going to be extra information that the children learn in the honors course that they would have to later use, that they wouldn't have to use for living environment.
Yeah, you had a second one?
Second question, math question. Said that you need to have like around a 90 average to stay in honors next year. But we already have to pick the classes in a week or two. So I guess my question is how we should just have a discussion with our child and decide now, even though the year is not anywhere near complete.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that one over to Dr. Scolari. His question was, in math, it said you had to have a 90 average, and we're making decisions now based on, for next year for the elective. So his question was, what happens if you're not sure?
So the way it's going to work right now is everyone that is in Math 7H, the Honors Math 7 class, I already rolled over to algebra right now. And then what we'll do is we'll look at it again at the end of the school year and see anyone that we feel shouldn't really be in that course. I really like when the teachers reach out to the parents and have that conversation with you. But if you feel, yes, maybe my child was recommended, but I don't want them in the course, which you have the right to do that as well, just reach out to the guidance counselor. So again, anyone that's sitting in Math 7H, I already rolled over to schedule them for algebra. And then I'll do the same thing with earth science after second quarter. Anyone in Math Science 7 that is sitting with a 95 or higher average, I'm going to roll into earth science for now. If kids do really poorly after third and fourth quarter, we'll have that conversation. Or if you feel like you don't want to, then you'll reach out to the counselor. You'll get later on in the process, you'll get a course selection of all the courses your children were signed up for, and we can have those conversations. But a lot of changes are made in May and June.
Oops, okay. So yeah, scheduling is a long process, and we have to start it early because we have to get an idea for staffing, mainly for the electives. But every student's taking a 40-minute math period, so it's really not as critical, and we can make changes, as Dr. Scolari said. We're making changes through May, June, sometimes even through the summer, so don't stress about it. And number 3. So his question was, does the Regents grade for living environment or earth science count on the child's transcript? And the answer is yes. It's a high school Regents level course that both are taking.
So I just want to let everyone know your children are taking 8th grade, either Spanish, Italian, or French. Next year as 8th graders, that is a high school level course. So all your children will leave next year, as long as they pass the course, with a credit for language that goes in their high school transcript, a credit for science, whether it's living environment and earth science, and if they're in algebra, a credit for math. So your children could potentially leave middle school with 3 high school credits. Now, because they're taking those courses in middle school, they're weighted a little differently. So the honors classes, and I'm not going to go through all the weighting exactly what the percentage is, but they do get weighted. And once they get to high school, it'll get weighted on their transcript. So it's not weighted for the report card, but once they get to the high school and they have an official high school transcript, it will get weighted at that point. So language, their science classes, and if they're in algebra, will all be on their transcript, and it's all high school credit. So for world languages, even though there is not a Regents examination, there is a local assessment called the Checkpoint A exam, and that's what gives them the high school credit. Yes. So, yes. So there used to be electives that the students would get high school credits for. We spoke to the high school guidance department, and 99% of the students graduate with so many credits that half a credit didn't make a difference. What we did find, though, is at the high school level classes, we had students failing them, and then they had a failing grade on their transcript because they didn't realize. So we are no longer making any electives high school credit.
And that decision kind of opened the door for us to be able to offer as many additional electives and change the course to a every other day full year. So it gave us more options to get kids to take the things that they're interested in, and that was really part of the driving force behind that decision. Yes? So remember I said earlier, so her question was, is PE8 interchangeable with Fitness for Life? So earlier I had said that if your child is struggling to find enough electives to take, then talk to us and we can work things out. There have been some cases this year where we allowed a child to take Fitness for Life in the morning and not take PE in order to give the child a chance to take elective that they wanted to take. So we're really trying to have the student take PE8, and then if you want to take Fitness for Life or yoga and mindfulness, you take that in addition. But in some circumstances, depending on the program that the child has, and usually if they have AIS services or special education services, we can make exceptions. Any other questions? Yes. Correct. Her question was, is PE8 only with 8th graders? Yes. Right now, all of our PE classes are done by grade. So there's PE6, PE7, PE8. So there won't be any high school students. Even though it's an early bird, it takes place in the middle school with middle school staff. It's a good question. Yes. Yes. Her question was, is there busing for the early bird? So around sometime in the summer, when we have the rosters of all of our early bird classes, I then send the rosters to Linda Scarano, who's our transportation supervisor, and then she will contact you and let you know where your bus stop is. And see, this is the one time the high school students are mixing with middle school students, because the middle school students will be welcomed onto the high school buses. So that's how we do the busing for that. Oh, right, only if they're a busser. If you're not a busser, then you don't get the bus. But if you're a busser, you'll be taking one of the high school buses in the morning for the early bird. Yes? His question was, can students take only one early bird, or can they take two? They could take more than one. So you could really take, what's that? If you only want to take one, that's okay. Like, we have some students right now that are only taking Health 8 as an early bird. So that means for now, let's say they took it in the fall, they take every other day Health 8. So one day they're getting up early, one day they're not. And then in the spring, because it's only a quarter-year course, they don't take anything. If your child wants to load up in the morning, they can do that as well. So it's really mix and match depending on the length of the course, how many you take. Yes? So, right, so her question was, if a child is in a performing group, are they allowed to switch from, let's say, orchestra to chorus? I think if you were playing an instrumental group like band or orchestra, I think you could switch to chorus. I think to switch the opposite direction would be more difficult because there's the years that it takes to learn the instrument. But that would really be a question for our music director, Ms. Jones. So if you do have instrumental to choral, I think is a definite yes. Choral to instrumental, you would have to have those conversations. If your child was taking lessons and just never took orchestra for whatever reason, and she would probably ask them to come do some sort of performance test or something. It's rare, but I think that is also possible, right? Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Technically, yes. Yeah, I'm going to have Dr. Sclary bring up one of the slides. And that's also part of the reason why we're allowing a student to not take music. We didn't feel it was fair to force them into taking something they don't want to take when they could be taking something that they're more interested in.
So like in this circumstance, to me, band is an elective because you want to take it, right? Unless your parents force you to take it and you don't want to take it. But so for this circumstance, this student is taking 4 electives to me. They're taking band, garage band, digital art, sorry, there's an extra S in that, I noticed that, and then animation. So technically, with music, they could really take 4 electives if they wanted to, if they took the PE and health in the morning. So they could, and to me, PE is an elective for some of them love it and some of them don't, but, so they could technically take 4 electives, with music being one of them. So let's go to this schedule, sample schedule. If this student does not want an early bird, in period 2, instead of robotics, we would put orchestra. And then they still get to choose 1 full elective, so like let's say modern food, and then they would do health with one of those others, which is still considered an elective, the So Delicious, the elements of art, and the engineering.
They would load up with quarter courses.
Yeah. So, they still get electives. It depends on how many they want. And the morning's not for everyone. So, it's really for those that, yeah. So it's not for everyone. So they're still able to get 2 electives in that case.
Yeah, so keep in mind that before, we never used to offer the early bird up until 3 years ago. And that was when students were only allowed to take the 1 elective. They also took the wheel classes, but they were only allowed to take that 1. At the time, we called it high school credit electives. So, making some changes, adding the extra time for the English, dropping the high school credit electives and making them full year every other day courses, adding the early bird, that helped open the door for additional opportunities. So every 8th grade student's schedule is literally custom built for them. And that's the beauty of the program. And, I have to say, the amount of electives that we offer, we're extremely proud of. If you look around at local middle schools in the area, they're not offering this robust menu of options. It gets confusing sometimes. It's hard to make decisions for 8th grade students. That's why we're asking for your help. Scheduling wise, I'm just glad I'm not the master scheduler in the building. That would be Dr. Scolari's job. And she is a whiz at, figuring out how to make it work for every student. And it takes a long time, and that's why we're starting in January, because it takes forever to get that schedule down so that every student is getting what they want. The only time they won't get what they want is if we don't have enough interest in the particular course. Out of those courses, we didn't run all of them this year because some of them we didn't have enough interest. Yep.
I just want to note another thing. When we do staffing and scheduling, we start early. We start in January, as you see. And then in February, we figure out how many sections of classes we need, how many teachers we need to teach. So if your child is in orchestra, let's say, and French, and then they want robotics, like I really go through every kid's schedule to see, okay, how do I make orchestra, French, robotics fit for this student, along with the other 235 kids in the grade. And then all of a sudden it's June and you're like, oh, I don't want to take this elective, I want to take this elective. Well, maybe now it's not going to fit anymore because the schedule is made already. So just note that when I do start building the schedule, which is like March, April, May, that's with all the requests that I have, and it takes a really long time to do. So when you make changes in June, it's really hard to get what you want, especially if it's a singleton class. If you're in Spanish and you took like Ultimate Chef, that's a really popular one, and Modern Food, yeah, you'll get everything because there's a lot of those kind of sections. But when there's only one French 8 class, one orchestra class, and one, let's say, robotics class, it's hard to get a singleton for all those and make it all fit for the 230 students. So just something to note. You're not, if you can make a change, don't think whatever you pick now and then you get confused, like, oh, I want to do this class instead. But just know sometimes it's hard to get everything once the schedule is already built.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, I just wanted to thank everybody for attending, whether you're online or in person, And like I said, any questions you might have, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Dr. Scolari, Ms. Rossley, Ms. Winans, or of course your child's guidance counselor. They know the schedule up and down as well, and they know the options up and down as well. So they can help guide you if you're struggling to make any particular decision. Again, thank you everybody, and have a wonderful evening.